Serious, desert dwellers, what's the strangest/scariest thing you've seen out in the sands? Turned on a black light at night while camping. Scorpions everywhere. Mom, Grandpa, and toddler me were driving through rural West Texas at dusk. Mom noticed the road looked like it was moving and something was crunching under the tires. She asked what it was. He told her she didn't want to know. She insisted, turned on the brights to reveal it was a tarantula migration. Used to be a wildlife biologist for the USFS, I have come across most things that live in the desert. I haven't been intimidated by most until the day I was out doing invasive grass surveys and a swarm of killer bees moving the hive flew past my partner and me. It looked like a dark cloud floating above the ground and sounded like prop jet. Hands down the most scared I have been in nature. My body flashed with heat and I was completely frozen. When bees move they all surround the queen in flight. If they had picked up on us as a threat, allergic or not, they could have killed both of us easily. Turned the corner on a walk to take a piss away from the campsite and there was a mountain lion, Puma concolor, just watching us from the darkness. Taking your dog out at night and hearing an animal yelp followed by the laughing of dozens of coyotes immediately after in the pitch black. Probably the Salton Sea. From a distance and overhead, it looks like any other refreshing lake or reservoir. An oasis in the desert sands, but it is landlocked with no outgoing river, so the salts and minerals just keep building up every year. You head toward the beach. There is a beach of sand and ancient, crushed-up shells, and the blueness of the water gets darker and darker until you realize that the blueness just the reflection of the sky, and the water itself is black as tar and the smell, like rotten fish and spoiled eggs, dead fish everywhere, and flies. You don't even want to get close to the water nowadays, but if you did swim in it you would float, the salt in it is so concentrated. This might not sound so scary until you have seen it in person. I was out camping in the desert and some idiot in the campground left a large cooler of beer unlocked. Javelinas, wild pigs, got into the cooler and proceeded to get drunk on beer. Wild pigs are not the nicest creatures and when they get drunk they don't get happy drunk, they get angry drunk. They rampaged through the campground tearing apart everything they could find, squealing like tortured banshees, and shitting everywhere. Then they all collapsed in a heap in the middle of the campground, passed out. It was a scary 10 minutes. Not usually scary but in this instance it scared the shit out of me and my friends. We were making camp, it got dark and my friend was fiddling with his flashlight. He says, "Wouldn't it be crazy if a donkey was in our camp when I turned this on?" Sure as shit his light worked and a fucking donkey had ninja snuck in between all four of us. This bitch braided us. Scared the shit out of all of us. Edit, tie for all of the awards, folks. Desert enthusiast here. One night friends and I got to the desert for a 2-night camping trip. On the way there we were hit by heavy rainfall. By the time we got into the desert it was cool and damp. We ended up going for a walk in the dark, and at one point my friend says I can hear a snake. I say to him it just sounds like the wind. So he opens the flashlight and right next to his feet there is a Palestinian viper curled up in a defensive pose. Snake has orange eyes under the light. Needless to say we were lucky no one trampled on the little one. I live in the Sonoran Desert, I'd if this counts. But apparently a few Mexican gray wolves somehow got into our area a few years back. I looked out my back window, I was 7, and was staring straight into the eyes of an enormous gray wolf. I was used to seeing coyotes, but not that. Thankfully, all our usually outdoor pets were inside. They, 3 of them, checked out our yard for a while and then left. For a couple of years after that, people in the area reported that apparently they took over the local coyote pack and were leading them to do some pretty bold stuff. Edit, Ugh. My most upvoted post was about coyotes. Why Reddit? Why? I'm surprised I didn't see microburst further up the list. A boatload of rain and sudden 60 to 80 miles per hour winds. Doesn't sound bad except rain doesn't soak in well here. It runs off. So getting hit with rain and wind hard enough you can't do anything but sit and take it followed by a flash flood. I would honestly say it was what I call to this day the Mirage Man. Note, I wasn't living there, but broke down there. I was somewhere in the California desert when my friend's car died. Neither of us had smartphones, and even then there was no guarantee we would have had a signal. My friend wanted to walk. I said it was a really bad idea. He insisted, and I really didn't want to be left alone for who knew how long without water. We started to walk, and every so often look back in case a car went by. It was perhaps only after an hour we noticed someone off in the distance that appeared to be following us. Friend asked me if we should turn around. I thought this was too strange. We were in the desert, while the sun was up, basically in the middle of nowhere. Why would someone else be walking? My friend wasn't entirely convinced, and suggested the person might have struck his car and was also walking into tow. I pointed out that we had been walking for an hour, and this was the first we had seen of him. It was too monumental of a coincidence that someone could hit a parked car on the side or the road, and catch up to us this fast. Long story short, We keep walking, but that figure is closing the distance. We were getting genuinely creeped out. We quickened up our pace as much as we dared in the heat, and every glance back the man was getting closer and closer, not exponentially so, but noticeable. We found a truck stop not far off, and moved just shy of a jog to sit down and get water from the vending machines. My friend kept watching, and pointed out the man was now holding steady and not getting any further away or closer. My friend asked a driver for a ride after calling his motor club to bail him out. Our eyes were on the man, still there. We got the gas and kept our eyes on the man in the distance. The driver didn't see him. The closer we got to the dead car, now the further the man seemed to be. We made it to the car, with our pursuer nowhere to be seen. Never saw it again. My friend thinks that was death itself, and had we not gotten to the truck stop then it would have gotten us. I used to live near a little town by Red Rocks, Nevada. I was walking to town at 9:30 and I noticed a tall figure, around 6 feet, about 50 feet away give or take. They were in all black and carrying something black and shiny with one arm and a shovel in the other. I called my ma and she said that it was okay to crash at my friend's place for the night. A 4-foot-long rattlesnake, 2 feet from my young son's bare leg. Driving home one night, I looked up as I stopped at an intersection and saw a yellow light, exactly like the street lights on the corner, but above them. Then, just as I was contemplating how that didn't look quite right, it disappeared like it was shooting off into the distance. Could have been nothing. Could have been something. Aliens, stellar phenomena, hallucination. All I know is it was fucking weird and now I have a UFO story. My reaction was just huh. That's a mystery that'll taunt me till I die. And then I turned and went home. I was in the desert in southern Colorado, staying at the Great Sand Dunes National Park. There's a full view of the dunes from the campsites. It was really spectacular. I left my tent to go to the bathroom maybe 10 p.m. It was summer so hadn't been dark for very long. When I looked out towards the dunes I saw what I can only describe as what looked like the circle of light an old, non-LED, flashlight makes if you were to hold it up to a wall, except it was huge and purple and more dim, as if the source of the light was very far away. I watched this giant circle of light cross horizontally over the dunes in a wavy motion and then it disappeared. I know that sounds bizarre. I've seen a lot of weird things in my life and this I have no explanation for. It wasn't an orb. It was seemingly flat against the dunes, and if it was being projected from a light source I couldn't see where it came from, or how it would be possible seeing as it covered about a quarter of the dune. Was out with my brother hunting rattlesnakes. We stumbled across what can only be described as a mass grave for horses. Thanks for listening. Subscribe for more daily videos.